We'll reconvene the public hearing at this time.
All right, everyone. So hello, everyone.
We're starting up again, so if you could please take your seat.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to begin back up with a public comment. We'll pick up where we left off. Our next four speakers are John Bickerton, John Franklin, Lisa Hamilton, and Emily Wickman.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. John Bickerton, South Clementine Street. Good evening. I urge you to vote no on the Fairfield Inn project on Oceanside Boulevard. There's nothing good about this project. It should never been considered by the planning department. The parcel is zoned RS single family. The owner developer has always known this. The parcel is adjacent to residential neighborhoods and nearby Ditmar School and will have a negative impact on them. This project is extremely complicated and dangerous. It does not have easy access as required by the proposed CR designation. This has to be one of the worst possible sites in Oceanside that could be chosen for a hotel. You must be selective, and you certainly do not need to approve projects that are going to create unending problems and dangers for the residents and visitors of Oceanside. A 2-star hotel, that's 2 out of 5. That's 40%. These students over here can tell you that that's an F. Deny this project, support and enforce the current zoning, protect our schools, single-family neighborhoods, and the safety of our residents and visitors. Thank you.
Emily Ortiz-Wichman on Fire Mountain resident. A U-turn at Oceanside Boulevard in Ditmar will impact not only traffic on Oceanside Boulevard, but most of Garrison School staff who come and go all day. And here's why. The following number of staff and students comprise Ditmar School, including the projected increase for the 2018-2019 school year. In that school, there are 151 staff members, adults who drive cars. Out of that, there's 4 office staff, 4 ATP teachers who are the adult transition teachers, 5 occupational therapists, 4 physical education specialists, 12 instructional aides, 5 hard of hearing and visually impaired teachers and instructional aides, 5 preschool assessment teachers, 2 speech teachers, and 1 nurse, 1 psychologist, and 1 independent study teacher. There are 7 adults from the nutrition office. There are 40 psychologists who meet there twice a month. There are 35 speech and language teachers who meet there twice a month. 25 adults from the nutrition who meets there once a month. There are 83 students, 56 adult transition, 18 to 22, 27 independent study, TK8, which is pre-K. There are 5 to 10 school-age students and their parents who come to Ditmar every day for assessments. Their IEPs, which are for special needs kids, to meet with preschool assessment team, which I had mentioned are 5. That's a total of 244 adults and students. Our staff hours are 7:30 to 4:30. Our student hours are 9 to 3. And with all this mix coming and going, there are 4 school buses. Thank you.
Our other 2 speakers were John Franklin and Lisa Hamilton. All right, we'll move on to our next 4 speakers. We have... Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Lisa. Sorry about that.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Lisa Hamilton, 323 South Ditmar. I oppose the development of the Fairfield Hotel on this site for all the reasons other people before me have stated. Beyond this, as you can see from the photo, the hotel presents a solid wall along the property front. Is this what we want as a gateway to Oceanside? If this property were instead used for housing, it would not follow the same shape proposed to a hotel, which is basically a central hall with rooms on either side. That's the cheapest way to build. Nobody builds residential development like this. Almost by definition, such a project, a housing project, would have lesser massing and more definition on the buildings. We need housing for our middle-class service providers, police, fire, and city workers, so they can live close to the people they work for. This is so-called workforce housing. There are several other places where a hotel of this sort could be built, sites that are flat and closer to the proposed soccer stadium to be available for participants in major soccer tournaments. This site could also be used for civic purposes that would not require such a constant amount of grading, and the hotel, while generating TOT taxes, will barely have enough parking, none for people who are visiting and not staying at the hotel. There will be no restaurant or bar. Let's consider other uses than this hotel with a better appearance than this very ugly and difficult to build overmassed structure. Thank you.
Is John Franklin still here? John Franklin? Okay, we'll move on. Oh, did you want to? Oh, you want to? Okay. Our next four speakers are Carmen Wolf, Sean Heskew, Mike Grell, and Kevin Bachman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. My name is Carmen Altamirano Wolf. I live at 1009 Schaefer Street. Ange and Maggie are my neighbors. They've done an outstanding job on that house of theirs. My family has been in our house since 1960. My parents bought the house. It has gone down to the third generation now. My sons and my nephew live in the house along with myself. This hotel, first of all, it's 2 stars. Most hotels are 2 stars unless you're really up there. Our property is going to be decimated. The value, our property values. I think you could find better uses for it. If it's zoned for single homes, then that's what it should be. We are now having problems up there that we never had in that area before. We have break-ins, people coming by and trying to get into the cars, and it's hard to take our animals out for walks because of the coyotes that are coming from the canyon. So with this thing coming up there, if you put that in there, where are the coyotes going to go? You want them roaming the streets? You know, that's not fair. I mean, that's their spot, we have our spot. Let this guy go find someplace else to put his facility. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Sean Heskew. We bought here about a year ago with my wife, Catherine, and our 4 children. I'm a retired Marine. I spent most of my life on a flight line and on a flight deck of a carrier, so traffic is kind of my gig. I work in aerospace. I work in aerospace and analysis right now, so numbers are also my thing. Trust me when I say that the numbers are skewed, because sitting over there on my phone, I don't know how many people they had operating, but I pulled this out and I factored in another 15 to 2,500 cars going in, because not a single person goes to a hotel, especially in an area like this, to sit in their hotel room. They don't come here for business either. So the average hotel stayer leaves their room 5 to 8 times a night. And if you're here on a weekend or during the summer, that's going to bring college kids, like he mentioned earlier, and that's going to put them on the roads at night under the influence going downtown. And I don't want to live downtown. I don't think anybody here does. If I wanted to live downtown, I would have bought downtown, but I bought in Seaside, Oceanside, because I love the feel of what we have here. We have a community, and a beautiful community it is, and the last thing I want to do is turn that and bastardize it into something like that, with it like a cheap hotel. I didn't want to say it, but I'm not the first one. Fairfield's not a luxury hotel. It's a 2-star hotel. I've been there, I've stayed there numerous occasions. I don't want my children to have to grow up in an area like that. That's not where I decided to rest my roots. I've moved 38 times in my 37 years, and I decided to plant here with them. And I stand with them. And the last thing I want my children to do is to have to grow up in an area like Oceanside used to be. And I hope that you all feel the same way. Thank you.
You know, that's a tough one to follow. My name is Mike Grail. I'm a real estate and land use attorney here in town, and I couldn't agree more with what was just said. I was going to come up here and talk to you about all the deficiencies in the EIR, which there are plenty. I don't think it really is going to survive a CEQA challenge. Your own staff talked about new studies that were revised that have been prepared since the Planning Commission today, but they haven't been circulated for public review. That doesn't satisfy the requirements of CEQA. So you have a problem right there. And so I think certifying the EIR is going to really expose you to potentially a lawsuit. Beyond that, I mean, you've just heard, 20, 30, 40, 50 people tell you that they don't want this. They don't want a hotel there. You've heard people actually talk about the optionality of maybe we'll consider a multifamily project if that's where the developer wants to go. I have a sense that if I was a developer, that would be a good option for me. I would think that if you're the custodian of this city and how much things are changing right now, there's a much better path than a freeway-oriented, limited-service hotel on one of the only empty sites here. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Kevin Bachman. I live on Alberta Avenue. I've been a resident of the Oceanside community for many years. I oppose this hotel, and the bottom line is that planning is a difficult process. What is even more difficult is having the fortitude and judgment to hold fast to good zoning, even in the face of a developer trying to make a fast buck on a two-star hotel. Commercial sprawl is filling gaps between commercial nodes. This is a failed policy. This project is a sprawl, trying to connect the I-5 in Oceanside Boulevard all the way up to Coast Highway with continuous commercial projects is not going to work. We've heard from the community that this is a recipe for disaster in terms of traffic safety and all the people that'll be in that area. This land is zoned for single-family residential, and it should be developed as single-family. We encourage developers in this city. Developing single-family homes is a good and valid use for this and a good return for Oceanside. I took a survey on Google this afternoon in terms of home prices up and down the I-5 corridor. I went 1,400 feet from the I-5 corridor up and down from here all the way down to Del Mar. I was actually surprised at the home values all the way from Del Mar, which ranged in the 1.7 million, up into Carlsbad, which is around 1.2 million. Oceanside has properties in 950,000 range in this 1,400-foot area. This is a viable option for this developer. Developing single-family homes on this property can make money and would be good for Oceanside. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Carol May, Jill Meyerhofer, and Robin Goodkind.
If you called your name, you can come down to the podium.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, and audience, my name is Carol May. I live at 1021 South Clementine Street, here in Oceanside, and I'm also representing the Women's Club of Oceanside at 1606 Missouri Avenue. We are opposed to this hotel. The only way that I believe it could be possibly acceptable would be if these 99 rooms were made into 99 studio apartments for the low income. then you wouldn't need to have the zoning change. Thank you very much.
My name is Jill Meyerhofer. I've lived in the neighborhood almost 25 years, and I remodeled an award-winning home up on Schaefer Street about 10, 12 years ago. We made San Diego Home and Garden, and I have watched this neighborhood really come online. People all over North County are talking about this specific neighborhood. Every friend I have far and wide wants to try to move in here. And what they recognize about it, it is historic, it is unique, it is a non-cookie cutter neighborhood. Every house is different. We have the concrete streets, the cool street lights, and why we would want to put a 2-star cookie cutter rammed in there hotel on top of this neighborhood, I can't even understand it. This is a 5-star neighborhood. It needs a 5-star hotel in there, or a boutique, something boutique and interesting and creative that matches Oceanside and this neighborhood. Please do not sell this neighborhood short with a 2-star hotel. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Robin Goodkind, Loma Alta resident and local business owner. This is about the kids whose parents picked a safe place to live that is zoned for houses, not hotels. The kids who go to the special needs school down the street, some of whom are blind or deaf. The kids who commute to St. Mary's school a few blocks away. The kids who count on us to provide a safe place to walk, to bike, and someday to drive. The kids do not need a 99-room hotel on a steep hill on a fast 4-lane street in a residential area, within a stone's throw to 2 elementary schools. A hotel that will be squeezed between a sewer station and hundreds of homes, residential homes, where kids live. The kids do not need this hotel. Their parents do not want this hotel. And with all due respect, the city should not want this hotel in this location, not in this location. Protecting our kids should be your #1 priority. I urge you, we urge you, to redirect this project to a location that is zoned commercial, where it belongs, where children will not be endangered. Is that too much to ask? On behalf of the kids, thank you for your time, thank you for doing the right thing, and thank you for please voting no on this project.
This is a public hearing item. Any members of the public who wish to speak on this item who have not turned in a form are welcome to do so at this time.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. First off, I want to take and thank the developer and Gunter and the crew. They did meet in the community with community activists, and I have to say thank you for it. However, some of the advice was not listened to. The key advice that I gave was they needed to have community buy-in. Apparently, that didn't happen. And it wasn't as, shall I say, fulfilled as it should have been. Secondly, the land right there, as I told the developer, is unique. Dr. Pat Abbott, eminent renowned geologist in San Diego, has pointed out that this specific spot of land is one of the few remaining areas where an example of inland drainage, where there used to be mountains off the coast, is just located. And he mentioned it in his books, and also in its classes, as I went to San Diego State, so I know it was mentioned. So what I am saying here is that I think, and I would suggest to the developers to withdraw this and work with the community to come up with a better proposal and idea. Thank you.
Hi, Cindy Rocco, South Oceanside, Honorable Mayor, council members. Basically, I mean, I don't envy you guys right now because you have to make a decision between this project and listening to the residents. And a lot of times, most of you are like, well, it's NIMBY and not in my backyard. But I think there's a lot of extremely valid points as far as the rezoning on this particular lot. It's a horrible piece of land. I wouldn't want to have it. I'd love to have land, but not that particular site. So I think that it is more well-suited towards the residential than having a 99-room hotel there. And one of the core reasons is because of, from having read the EIR and commenting on that, is there isn't any substantiation as far as the impacts when we go to Coast Highway Vision Plan. That gets approved, and there's a roundabout at Oceanside Boulevard in the 101. You just need to play that one forward right now and look at that situation and say, what are the impacts with that? If there's incredible lack of safety issues and traffic management now with levels of service that are at an F, and Oceanside Boulevard Circle will be, it'll take 540 seconds to get through that circle because the prior one will be backed up. Now we'll just take that down the way. So I just think right now is a great opportunity to make a decision, because you can, because it's not zoned for this, to not have a hotel there, leave it the residential, and then, I know it sounds crazy, but one of the ideas I did have was to convert that into a visitor center off of Oceanside Boulevard for the city, and have, someone has suggested perhaps Oceanside Museum there, but keep that natural land mass, or land formation, and preserve it with native plants, have trails, have something that really looks neat. Or if you're going to do housing, do it more like hillside terracing like they do in France or in Italy off of the coast, and you have them going up the line there. Thank you.
That'll conclude the public input portion. I believe the developer has rebuttal time.
Yes, he has 8 minutes. At this time, the appellant may come forward for 8 minutes of rebuttal if he wishes to do so.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Ann Gunter with the Lightfoot Planning Group. We are the applicant's representative, and I am a registered lobbyist with the city. Our offices are at 5900 Pasteur Court in Carlsbad. There's a lot of opinion, a lot of emotion, a lot of conflicting information that you have from listening to the comments. We have looked at this site for many, many years with this owner. We've been looking at the hotel site. We looked at it pre-recession. And there was an application on file that never was brought forward. And prior to that, it was looked at for residential development, which is what it's designated. It was looked at as single family, and given the configuration and the access off of Oceanside Boulevard, there's just not enough way to get houses in there and be able to afford the frontage improvements. You know, someone mentioned, well, of course this project has to do sidewalks along its project frontage. All projects do, and that's accurate. All projects do have to do frontage improvements, so you're talking about a very significant cost to do the grading and the sidewalk improvements in front of the project. This project, in addition, is doing off-site public improvements, as was discussed, all the way up to Nevada. This project was studied for multifamily housing years ago, and that also requires a general plan amendment and a zone change. And at that time, granted it was many years ago, the direction was that there was no interest in changing that to a multifamily housing project, that that was not appropriate for the community. In looking at this site and in talking to staff and in listening to some of the decision makers, there was an interest in having hotel rooms and in having a use that would would give something back to the community. And that's really kind of the genesis of the hotel. Since then, we've worked on the design. We have met with the community. We've made modifications in that project, as we've discussed, in the architecture and the layout, to try to bring forward a project that is the best for the community. I understand that the neighbors don't agree with that, but this project has no physical connection to that neighborhood. It sits well below on that hillside with the way it's proposed to be graded. There is no direct linkage and connection into that residential area that would make it suitable for residential. If there are any specific technical issues that you have questions about, I'd be happy to address those, but I think that the studies that were done in the EIR, the studies that were presented through the staff's review and the staff report are pretty thorough and pretty complete, and I don't know that it does a lot of good to repeat all of that. We did do some supplemental work post-Planning Commission, but all of that was to verify information that was already covered in the environmental documents. And we've seen no additional technical information or factual information that's been presented that would counter that. I would like to bring up the operator for a couple of minutes. I think this issue of a cheap hotel and a two-star hotel is a very, it's a very good emotional link. But the hotels that are operated by RAR, if you go on to other ways of getting stars like Yelp and TripAdvisor, their hotels regularly get 4 and 5 stars. So I don't think we're talking a quality issue here. We are talking a product type, and I'd like to introduce Cameron.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to, exactly what you had mentioned, kind of talk about the quality of the hotel. This will in no way be a cheap hotel in the grand scheme of the way that hotel brands are ranked. There's the economy level, the mid-scale, and the luxury level. Within the economy level is, some of those cheaper hotels that rent for well under $100 on a nightly basis. This will land right within that mid-scale hotel, which we have done many studies to figure out what is appropriate for this location. And the Fairfield brand in and of itself is one of the largest award-winning brands within that mid-scale hotel level. It is affordable, it is clean, and it is a great product for that within that $100 to $200 range. So we intend to operate this hotel if it gets built in a manner that we try to include the community in as much of a way as possible. We operate, like we said, 10 hotels in San Diego, with the majority of those being within the top 25 ranked hotels within San Diego. And most of those involve, in one way or another, the community that we'd like to extend those kinds of benefits into this community, where it's ancillary businesses that are nearby get the benefit of our concierge services, pushing customers out there, hiring, creating new jobs within the city, and really promoting community organizations by being involved in those. So we intend to continue more community development if this project gets built. Happy to answer any questions on the hotel side.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Thank you, Mayor. That was a lot. And I want people to know this is my neighborhood. This is where I grew up. I grew up on one of those concrete streets. I still live on that same street. But that doesn't matter. There's a lot going on that we all have to consider. What really matters is that this is now voting District 1. This is my district. I represent the people who live in that district, but I also represent the entire city. When we have to think about what we want to have in our neighborhood, and if the people who live in that neighborhood and some of the nearby neighborhoods are very concerned about what's going on, especially that traffic, it is, well, first of all, it's a lot. And that really matters also, not simply what the space is being used for, but how it fits into the space and the surrounding environment. I do want to acknowledge our city planner, Mr. Madera, for giving us a lot of detail. That was more detail than we needed. It was hard to read, but there was a lot there that was very helpful. And I know that the people who looked it up online and saw that probably just turned it off very quickly, because it's really detailed, and that's what we need to hear as a council and as community members. I want people to realize that what we have here is something that a lot of people don't like, and that it has brought together a number of neighborhoods, and it shares my concern of traffic speeds, safety for people who are using it in cars, on bikes, walking, and living there. The schools are an issue. People brought up many issues. I hope that my council peers join me in opposing this project, and to that effect, I want to make a motion that I have to read. I move to deny the general plan amendment and rezone, affirm the decision of the Planning Commission, and deny the appeal. I hope I can get a second and that we can vote on that. But if there's no second, then that means nobody supports that.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. This is a community that has very strong sense of community. I'm also District 1. My family dates back to the 30s, actually probably the 20s, and came into Oceanside, South O, Seaside, what is Seaside now, and Eastside. So all of that is in District 1. And each one of the neighborhoods in District 1 especially feel very, very strongly about neighborhoods. And this neighborhood especially, I was there when OCNA started, helped to make, to ease the skids to make that happen. And boy, there were so many people that were going to the meetings. It was over 100 people. And this is such a very, very, this is home. And it is zoned residential. I can't support this project. It's too bad that it's not on the other side of the freeway. That's where it would fit, because that is the beginning of residential. And it should be consistent with the community, and it is not. And on that basis, along with, all the traffic issues, and, I use Oceanside Boulevard several times a day. And, it's, from an outsider maybe looking and saying, okay, trying to make the numbers look good, it is what it is. I don't see too many kids riding their bicycles because it is fast, right? It's better to do more like the cross, riding bicycles. So I am not going to be able to support this project. Thank you.
I have a question for staff. Based on the issues and questions that have been raised, do you want to respond to any specific issues?
Mayor Weiss, members of the City Council, if there's specific questions, well, our traffic engineer has a couple things to say.
Honorable Mayor, members of the Council, David Perosi, traffic engineer. A lot of things have come up concerning traffic. Accidents was one. What the slide that was shown early in the presentation, what it showed was 2.75 accidents per year at the intersection of Oceanside and Ditmar. And what the applicant is conditioned to do as part of this project is to improve this intersection. So maybe quickly just walk through some of the things that he's willing to do Today, we're looking westbound on Oceanside Boulevard. We have the left turn lanes, but it's a permissive left. So at looking at the accident reports, what I noticed was there was a few left turn people making lefts with people going straight on Oceanside Boulevard. So by putting a protective left, which would be the green arrow at the signal, that would eliminate those types of accidents. The only time someone would be able to make a left then would be with the green arrow. Other things we're looking at the intersection is installing high visibility crosswalks. Those are the continental crosswalks you're seeing around town now. We're also looking at doing the accessible pedestrian signals. Those are the signals you'll see downtown, or the you'll hear downtown. It tells you when to cross the street. I know there's been concerns about the visually impaired people too, so that should certainly help them. So with the improvements that are being recommended at this intersection, I would hope to see that the average accidents would actually go down at this intersection. As far as the accidents on Oceanside Boulevard itself, it was basically 1 per year from what our data shows. And the accidents we're looking there was coming down the hill going eastbound, and there were rear ends as they were approaching Vine Street. So where the access for this development would be going westbound. We're prohibiting lefts coming out of the access, so it would not even really impact where you're seeing accidents today. And then as far as the speed survey goes, the 85th percentile on this road is 42 miles an hour. So it's posted 40. I think probably what the applicant meant to say was, instead of only 2 vehicles were going over the speed limit, is that the speed limit's actually posted 2 miles an hour below what the 85th percentile is. With that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Feller.
Thank you. David, if you could jump back in the saddle. So we have talked extensively. I thought I had a solution that was satisfactory as far as traffic, and then that wasn't anymore. I mean, but I would still like to know about it. It is the left turnout only light on the hill. So at the entrance to the project, there is a opportunity to have 2 lanes coming out, one a left lane and a right turn only lane. I think that what I'm thinking, or what I thought was, and Claudia Troisi was the one that suggested this probably 8 or 10 months ago that I had first heard about it. But it was it is a left turn, and we can do that. It is a synchronized signal with the rest of the strip, probably as far as you need to go, and the transit district, that would allow left turn out at that only, and it would only be when there is somebody on that pressure plate to turn left and go east on Oceanside Boulevard. Is that a possibility still?
So, Honorable Mayor and council members, if I could reiterate, it sounds like you're asking for a traffic signal at the access to the driveway of the hotel. So it doesn't meet traffic signal warrants. And it would be, we don't normally have a development where it's a standalone development where we would have a traffic signal. And by doing so, we would be introducing left turns out of the driveway. Would it work? I suppose it would, but to be honest with you, it's almost over-engineered at that point. The design that staff has worked with the consultant team with the right in, the right out, and the left in is reasonably safe for that roadway, and it certainly fits the design of the road too, and that would be the option that staff would support.
What about the, if that happened and you removed the U-turn at Ditmar?
Yeah, well, and that's what would happen too. But the U-turn at Ditmar, again, as I presented in the street design of Oceanside, on this design, by improving this intersection and putting a protective left turn in, it would, again, make that U-turn okay at that point.
It's already okay, right? You can
make the U-turn?
there.
Well, it's a permissive left right now, so it would certainly be safer to do it with the protective left.
I agree it is, but
Okay.
you are legally allowed to make a U-turn there.
I'm not sure if it's not signed to say that, but to be honest with you, where we have U-turns, we would like 32 feet from the center line over to the curb, and I don't believe we have the 32 feet. So it's something we would have to look at to make sure that that's the way we want to go. But at this point, that's part of what the developer is required to do too, is to widen that section, the intersection, to provide that safe U-turn at that point.
Okay. And there is no blasting. I heard that. I did have, yeah, that's probably not your question, Dave. And I had a question that I don't remember who said it, but it was about CEQA issues and lawsuits. You know, I'm not sure I trust all the attorneys I hear speaking. We got two up here and probably a bunch of them out there, but I'd like to know what the thought is on that, whether that is an issue or not. Is that you?
Well, to be honest with you, the speaker who did raise that did not identify any specific issues during his testimony, so I really can't respond to issues that were not raised. All of the issues that were raised were responded to in accordance with CEQA's requirements in the final EIR. You know, CEQA, it's an informational document. You could use that information to make a decision to approve or deny. Just by certifying an EIR does not mean that you have to approve a project. What you're really saying is whether that document adequately identifies all of the impacts of the project and mitigates them where feasible. So the staff has prepared an environmental impact report with all of the appropriate legal findings under CEQA, so we think that it's a valid document, but whether you want to approve or deny the project is a separate question.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion and a second? So the motion dies for lack of a second?
Yes, that's what happens at council meetings. So one person makes a motion, and if nobody else likes it, it dies. And it's odd that we have two people who are opposed to this, but one of them is not willing to second my motion. That means we don't have an opportunity to vote on it. So this is a great lesson for everybody in Political Science 101.
Councilmember Kern?
Hey, whoa, okay.
Hey,
As a former political science teacher, Deputy Mayor is absolutely right. It dies for lack of a second. You know, I've watched this project get developed, and I think this is about the fourth or fifth iteration I've seen as it's gone through the process. And I think there is a real definite public benefit for this project. And ladies and gentlemen, I sat here quietly for over an hour. I did not interrupt anybody. I listened attentively. I didn't shout or boo or anything, right? I expect you to give me the same consideration that everybody on this dais has given you. If you don't like it, I understand. all right? But I'm going to say my piece, and at the end of the day, we'll take a vote, and whether I win or lose, I'm going to say what I have to say. So, anyway, I've seen this project come a long ways. You know, the developer has redesigned this, I think, at least 3 or 4 times that I have seen. And I've actually seen 2 of them at OCNA meetings in the last year. So the idea that I think this is a good project, it is a benefit to the city, that sidewalk is very beneficial. The idea that we actually get TOT from this. You know, we have, on June the 6th, we're going to talk about a sales tax increase, which I oppose. But the idea that, why should I even consider a sales tax increase that we can't bring in industries and businesses that actually generate TOT? So the idea that we need to expand our base, that's the problem that we have. We need to expand our tax base in the city of Oceanside. And we do need hotels in the city of Oceanside. So,
Just real quick, everyone, just a quick reminder, we do have a decorum policy in place, so if we could let the council member continue, that'd be great. I understand it's a heated issue, but if we could let him continue, that'd be great.
okay. So there was a motion on the floor and it died for a lack of a second. Off least that was the motion of opposition, and he could not get a second to his motion. I'm going to move staff recommendation, and we'll see if we get a second, and then we'll vote on it. Thank you.
Councilmember Feller?
So unless we can get a left turn out, I will not support it. So, and that's what I'm looking for. And you know, if the staff or applicant want to come forward, whatever.
Mr. Mayor, council members, the applicant is amenable to installing a signal at the project driveway for the left out, if that is council's preference. And they are also amenable to the U-turn at Ditmar as it was designed in the traffic study. It is the council's discretion if you prefer one over those.
So it's both? They're amenable to both?
Yeah, he says yes, they would do both.
Well, that's a lot of improvement to Oceanside Boulevard, that's for sure. Okay, I will second the motion.
Just point of clarification, are we going to put that in the motion as direction?
Yes, certainly they need to work with staff to create that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lowry?
I have a question for Ann. Oh, I know. Oh, maybe I shouldn't ask you. The question was directed to the developer, builder, whoever, and they were asked if a stoplight would be put in there. So that would be, I'm just trying to get a picture of this. Halfway up the hill and halfway down the hill, there's going to be a stoplight there, and people are going to be able to go across the street. I just want to ask. It's not for the I'm not entertainment value. I just want to understand what that is. I mean, it's going to be a stoplight in the middle of that 45-mile-an-hour traffic.
Again, I'm not the traffic engineer, but that's my understanding is that at the project entry, it would be a signalized intersection, and it would allow that if people were turning left out of the hotel, they would trigger that light, and it would turn red on Oceanside Boulevard going both directions to allow that movement for the time, for whatever the duration was.
That sounds really scary. Okay, well, thanks for explaining that. Oh, David. Yes, sir.
David DePero, City Traffic Engineer. So our standard is 600-foot spacing for a 4-lane secondary collector. The spacing where the signal would be is approximately 700 feet, so it meets that criteria. We have these types of situations, other than being a standalone development with its own signal, along corridors like this. So you will see signals, I mean, right where I-5 is, you have two signals while they're out ramps, but you do see that. One condition that we did talk to the applicant about is coming down the hill, that to make sure, because of the light possibly being red, that there be some type of advance warning beacon or something to notify people that there's a signal ahead. So we'd be looking at that during the design phase to make sure we meet all the design criteria for the signal.
Thank you.
Is this signal going to allow ped crossings?
This signal would, it would, yes.
My understanding was, if I might, that this signal, I'm sorry, David, getting a lot of exercise. The signal would only be activated if there was a left turn coming out without a ped crossing.
Well, our standard traffic signal is, when we design these, is what I would be recommending would be a full-blown signal, and that would be not only for automobiles, but for pedestrians too, to have full access at that intersection. That's the way we go about designing traffic signals. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to not only drive on the street, but cross the street, as well as bike on the street. So where staff would be on this particular case is to recommend a full traffic signal at this intersection, but obviously it's up to council to direct us.
Well, I would suggest that it be an open signal as much as possible, and for pedestrian crossing, and for no pedestrian crossing there. You will still have the left turn in with the green light, without you'd have green lights, you would have a left turn in that you'd go in automatically. The only time the light would change is when there's a car coming out, and that's what I've seen, and I know it works.
So I hear you saying it's going to be a regular signal, and what I hear Councilmember Feller saying is it's for lefts out only, no peds.
Honorable Mayor and council members, we have not gotten into the design aspect of the signal, but the signals that we design in the city, we try and make sure that we take into account not only automobiles, but pedestrians and bicyclists. So again, without getting into the design of this particular signal, and this is just what our standards are, is to follow those procedures when we're designing signals. But again, what council recommends is obviously is the direction staff will take. I'm just providing guidance in what the standards are in the MUTCD for designing traffic signals.
Don't sit down, David. It might be a question for you. I think by clarification, what I'm hearing you say is that this would be a demand signal. So again, I think that's an issue of, is it a pedestrian crosswalk or not? But if there were pedestrian crosswalks, it's not like this would just go off. It would be on demand for the left, or if pedestrian crosswalks are included, it would be a demand by a pedestrian if they wanted to cross to the other side of Oceanside Boulevard.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Here, John, here.
Let's take it to the voters, Oceanside.
Okay, as part of the motion, you have the resolution certifying the environmental impact report, adopting the CEQA findings of fact, the findings of overriding consideration, and the mitigation monitoring reporting program. The resolution's approving all of the discretionary entitlements. So also, I need to introduce the ordinance for the rezone. So this is the introduction of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending the zoning designation for certain real property located on the north side of Oceanside Boulevard between Vine Street and Clementine Street, APN 152-32037, from single-family residential RS to recreational commercial CR Fairfield Inn and Suites, Oceanside Boulevard, Zone Amendment ZA 15-00009.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-2. Sanchez, Lowry, no.
We need attorneys.
25.
Stop this, and we need to take it to the voters. Get a petition signed. Let's do it. We got enough people here. Let's do it. Sword. Not leaders. We're going to get this to the we're going to get it, take it to the voters. Petitions need to be signed.
You were not a leader tonight. None of you.
So, item number.
Thank you.
Item number 25.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I think she left.
Okay, everyone. We're gonna move forward to item number 25. Item number 25 is advance written request to speak by Kathy Nichol. Oh, Kathy, are you still here?
I haven't seen Kathy.
Okay, then we'll move forward to. Oh, she is.
26.
Okay, item number 26. So we'll move forward to items off the agenda. Our first speaker is Jimmy Knott.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. Today I come before you, I put on your desk in front of you the following items, and I want to let the public see it as well. First off, on the 24th of May, is going to be a luau for the seniors of our community at the Country Club Senior Center. And the public's invited. And for those who are not, shall I say, senior age, I'm not going to say who is or isn't behind the dais, but if you are not a senior, it would be $5. For those who are, it would be $3. But there's going to be some great entertainment. I've seen this before, and these ladies really do a whiz-bang job. So number one, there's that. Number two, I know this is hard to read. This is tomorrow, and that's the Mother's Day lunch. It's going to be taking place over at the Country Club Senior Center. Once again, it's for those who are under $5. For those who are seniors, it'd be $3. However, there's going to be Mother's Day prizes, free raffles, going to be live music, and also a trivia contest. Plus, I was asked by Sylvia Spears to make a special invitation to all our council members. And that is, we, as you know, we deliver the lunches to our seniors out in the community that have difficulties, whether they have to go out and get their lunches or to afford a lunch. And we have some seniors there that have the same issues. She wanted me to invite you to go out, each of you, and to help deliver so you can meet our seniors in your individual districts. So just wanted to make sure that that is done and to say thank you for all your assistance.
Our next speaker is Elia Conklin.
Hello, my name is Aaliyah Conklin.
at 1175 Prussian Way. I'm representing the driving student body at OHS. My purpose is to shine a spotlight on the unfortunate problem threatening our city's landmark site, Oceanside High School. To give a bit of a background, I've been working with and leading 30-plus students who drive to school, all expressing the same frustration towards a lack of parking. I myself have attended 2 OUSD board meetings addressing the issues as well. Not only that, but I have collected a total of 234 signatures from staff and students supporting the resolution to parking, student parking in particular. In the interest of time, I will speak very briefly. I have narrowed the problems down to the root of 4 main points. The first point being the fact that there is virtually no student parking on campus. The school only allotted 40 spaces for students, only enough for about 4% of upperclassmen. Secondly, there are extremely limited spaces off of campus for the other 96% to park. This means we are left to compete with our peers for parking every morning, not to mention the residents who live there as well. Following the frequent gang activity surrounding the campus where students can park leaves us questioning our safety. My last point is that regular street sweeping eliminates at least one street every Monday, exasperating the situation even more. All of these points become problematic to us driving students as we're simply just trying to get to school. I am very confident, though, that between the Oceanside Unified School District, the City of Oceanside, and the driving student body, we can come to a solution. Thus, I will be sending a follow-up to the council to find the solution, as every day my peers and I are faced with this problem. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with you and the city and the school district soon.
All right. Thank you. Our next speaker is Arlene Hammerschmidt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Our City Clerk, Zach, Arlene Hammerschmidt, Ivy Road in Fire Mountain. Zach is handing out a personal invitation to you, and that is, for a little levity, but seriously too, a little bit of homework before the next meeting on the 23rd. Would you please witness at Lincoln Middle School release time, and that schedule, the regular bell schedule, is provided at the bottom of this little slip. 1, student and parent pedestrian and vehicle activity on Grandview Street between Hunsaker and Crouch. And 2, student and or pedestrian and vehicle activity on Crouch between Grandview and Oceanside Boulevard. How safe do you feel at this place? How safe do you think your children or grandkids would feel in this place, in this situation? Please come and experience what the neighbors have experienced, and firsthand, it just doesn't cut. I mean, the numbers just don't add up to your personal experience. So just a little bit of homework in the next 2 weeks. Please come by in the afternoon, not morning, afternoon at release time. It's critical. Thank you very much. And thank you for your patience with all of us this evening, too.
Our next speaker is Serena Fajardo. I don't see her. She was one of the students. And our last speaker is Jim Jenkins.
Honorable Mayor, council members, I wasn't really planning to speak tonight, but I heard a couple things that council member Mr. Feller expressed regarding issues, ballot initiative, things like that, where it's important to do all these studies so people are more educated and orientated as to what they may be voting on. So I heard this tonight, that people should have that right to be informed, educated, and orientated in order to vote accordingly or appropriately. But we've had situations, and I've been discussing this for the last 2-3 months about appointments and conflicts, things like that. But I don't understand why we're not consistent with that. So why does not this same theory and practice apply, especially when we were discussing about our mayoral candidacy? I mean, about allowing other people to come in and possibly run, be put on an election, and go to a ballot instead of just an appointment. So, you brought up a good point about the time that's needed for people to be educated, but we only do it when it seems to be fitting to what individuals want, not what the city needs. I know a lot of people were asking about, instead of an appointment of the mayor position, that it be an elected position, and we just didn't do it. But I think we should become more consistent with some of the guidelines in which we've been discussing, and I just think that's important to keep in mind. Thank you.
No further public on this item. Yes, item number 27. My apologies. Item number 27 is a request from Councilmember Jerry Kern and Mayor Peter Weiss to approve Councilmember Kern's request to travel outside the state using funds from his business unit account pursuant to Oceanside City Council Policy 100-60.
Thank you. But before I begin, I'm going to add something to the items not on the agenda. This Saturday is the Oceanside Friends of the Public Library book sale. So we need everybody, I wish we could have announced this when everybody was in the room. If I can get all those people in here that were here tonight to come and buy books on Saturday, that'll be fewer books I have to carry. So I'm one of the chief schleppers at the book sale at the end. So that Mary Ellen knows, she's there, she comes. So the idea, please come and buy books on Saturday, 10 to 4 over at 602 Civic Center Drive. I'm making a request that to travel out of state because I've been asked by the community engagement panel for the decommissioning of San Onofre to travel to Pittsburgh and actually inspect the construction of the canisters. There has been some question about the canisters and change of design. There's been a couple pin failures on the new design. So I am requesting that I can use my travel budget to go back. The problem is Edison would pay for this, except the FPPC prohibits travel by outside sources, unless I gave a speech. If I gave a speech, it'd be different, but I'm actually traveling back east for an inspection tour, so I was going to go under on my expense account. So I fly into Pittsburgh on the 30th. I spend one night. I inspect the canisters on the 1st, and then I fly back that next night back here. So I was just asking for council's authorization to travel out of state. So I get to put that in the form of a motion. I move that I get to travel out of state.
I'll second.
No public.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
I think we're done, so we will adjourn. Well, are there any other general council member items?
Yeah. Yes, quickly.
Oh, yeah. Jack.
Frank Zimmerman asked to make sure that I shared with the council this award at the VIP soccer event that we had this past Friday. There were several people that were recognized, but especially the city of Oceanside, the council, very appreciative. What this started in 2007, and it's just been a very, very great event for all our kids. So, it was a fun night to celebrate, the accomplishments of our kids. It's also pro. So there are also people from all over the world coming. So great event, and we look forward to 2019. Yay!
So my only question is, you're going to go back and pour that sand back on the beach? Because you're not supposed to remove sand from the beach.
Yeah, well, I didn't say it was from Oceanside, okay? Okay, and the other thing, I just wanted to, again, say congratulations to 3 people who were put on the Laurel School Hall of Fame. And that was Cynthia Perez, who's a senior social services supervisor in Orange County. Maria Jimenez, who's a case manager for veterans in transition at Veterans Village, San Diego, and a longtime resident and longtime library media tech, Margarita Castillo Vasquez. Congratulations. Thank you.
And with that, we will adjourn to our next meeting at 3:30 on Wednesday, May 23rd.